Diverse representation in video games, a very hotly debated topic. The only problem being, most of the people who say they want it are lying. You may have seen this title, How Women Gaming Stars Would Look If They Weren't Sexualized Fantasies. It was passed around quite a lot, and the article is about a project by Bulimia.com. What they did was they took some video game characters and chunked them up a bit, made them a bit tubbier. And while this headline hints at the narrative of there being too many unrealistic women in games, that's not what Bulimia.com was actually doing. They were going for more average bodies, not more realistic. For the most part at least. There are, of course, in fantasy, some unrealistic bodies. Since then, the headline has been changed to better reflect the truth. But I think the original headline is a bit telling. The article and the Bulimia.com project is concerned with showing people what the standards are, viewing cultural representation of women as a feminine ideal presented to the public. This makes sense for Bulimia.com. They are concerned with people being obsessed about weight. This does not make sense to support for those who care about representation. Let's take one of the examples. From the perspective of Bulimia.com, this makes sense. They want to try to discourage people from being obsessed with losing weight. If you think that video games influence what someone believes the average person looks like, and you believe that someone's belief about what the average person looks like affects their view and how they feel about themselves, it makes sense to do something like this. From that viewpoint, it does make sense to suggest that more video game characters should have what they are calling the average American body. And I suppose that is representation of a sort. That is representation of an average, of the standard. And as I've said, that makes sense for Bulimia.com and what they're trying to do. Now, another kind of representation, and what I think most of these people arguing for representation want, is representation of an ideal. They will say that that is what they are trying to get away from. They are saying because there isn't enough diversity, effectively games ingrain that this is the way a woman should look, or this is the way a man should look. But at the same time, I think all they're saying is, games present an ideal, I want that ideal to be something else. It's easy to question me on that though. You could say, but they want different color people, they want different sized people, and so on, but only within a certain window, and of course, only if done right. That someone views games as something that could exclude you by the average presentation of a gender, or as something that presents or reinforces an ideal, doesn't sit well with me, simply because if you take either of those views, it means in order to fix the problems, you needn't only change the way things are represented in games, but make sure that people view games as an ideal, or as something that's meant to represent reality. And this is what tips me off to them not really believing in representing who is there in the world. They don't want true diversity, they don't want everything and anything. They want their little idealized letterbox slice of what they call diversity. This is why they don't just want different looking people, but all the different looking people have to act in a certain way, and they have to be looked at in a certain way. They are looking at games as a tool to remove stereotypes, a tool to change what people think the standard is, rather than as something to actually represent. If people were looking for representation in games of what the world is like, the diversity that is there in the world, rather than how they'd like the world to be, and what they'd like people to think the standard is, there would have been articles asking, where are all the anorexic heroes? But, as usual, that's just another one of my harmful opinions.